Well, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to everyone. We're so happy to see you here for our annual Business Appreciation Breakfast. I'm Mark Kingseed, the mayor in Centerville, and I guess at the beginning anyway, I'll be the officiating at these ceremonies. Again, I want to thank you for coming. We're going to try to keep on schedule here. So I wanted to invite up for the invocation Pastor Tony Miltenberger from Centerville United Methodist Church. Tony, good to see you again.
Hey, thank you, sir. Let us pray. Most amazing and incredible God, we thank you for the spirit of an entrepreneur. Lord, we ask that you bless this food. May it nourish our bodies and develop great conversation as we show our appreciation to the guts that it takes to lead. We ask that you give us great courage today so that we can go out and make our city a better place. We love you and we praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. We're very, very happy to see such a large crowd here. I want to, before we get into the official remarks, wanted to recognize the public officials who are in attendance. I say this every meeting, but it's very important to understand that those folks are here partly, of course, in their individual capacity as supporters of business, but obviously, those of us who are elected, we're here also representing the people of this city and the people of the communities that we work for. So they are here in a dual capacity, and I think we need to understand that. We have a lot of really distinguished guests here, and I wanted to start by recognizing Bob Glazer, who is the Greene County Commissioner. Bob. As you may have read from time to time in the paper, Centerville is also part of Greene County now. That's sometimes a source of controversy, but we are happy to be there, and Bob, we're very happy to have you here joining us this morning. Also wanted to recognize Paul Gruner, Montgomery County engineer. Where are you at, Paul? Oh, there you go. Carolyn Rice, the Montgomery County treasurer. Where are you at? There's Carolyn. Carolyn is actually the sister of one of our former colleagues on Centerville City Council, Doug Klein. So Doug chose not to run this last time to spend more time with his family, thereby breaking up a political dynasty. So we may see more of Doug in the future. I also wanted to recognize someone who has a very important role to play in this community, and that's Brian Martin, who is the head of the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission. And then also my colleagues on Centerville City Council who are here to express their appreciation and thanks to you. The Deputy Mayor, Brooks Compton. John Beals. Belinda Kenley. And Joanne Rao. We have two public officials who are not in attendance today because they are in session in Columbus, but I did want to just say a special word about Senator Peggy Lehner and State Representative Jim Butler. They have really stepped up to help the city on a number of issues recently in Columbus. And frankly, they've gone against the party leadership on some of these issues. And I think it's easy to say, well, gosh, that's nice, and pat people on the back. But the reality is, the party environment in Columbus is pretty intense. When someone, because they're supporting their own constituents, goes against the party leadership, that's a pretty big deal. And I think both Peggy and Jim Butler have shown great leadership. They've shown great dedication to supporting their constituents. I wish they could be here in person to hear this, although I'm going to tell them this in a telephone call later today, but I'm deeply appreciative of them, and I just wanted to make sure that we all understood that they have gone above and beyond the call of duty by standing up. So I would urge you, again, to remember Peggy Lehner and Jim Butler, and to think about them and to express your thanks to them when you see them next for what they've done for us in Columbus. It's really been a good thing and something that we're very, very grateful for. Before I get into the formal remarks, I wanted just to say a few things about what the city's been up to, because I think this would be a benefit to you. I know we try as much as we can to be open and forthcoming, and trying to be as helpful as we can as a partner to all of you who are running or working or owning businesses in the city. And a couple of the efforts we have, which I want you to be aware of, we do have, in essence, our own TV program with the cable access TV, and that really is an opportunity that I would urge all of you to take advantage of. Maureen Russell Hodson. Maureen, where are you at? I know. Oh, there you are. Maureen is kind of the hostess, I guess, of a show called, what is it, Centerville Reports Today, which is a great program which allows a business owner to go to City Hall to be interviewed by Maureen. It's run on the cable access channel many times during the month and so after that. So it's really a great opportunity for you to talk about your business, to talk about the services you provide. We also have a program called Centerville Business Today. I always get these mixed up. And this is one which is one of my favorites. This is where I actually will go to you to meet you in your business setting. It's taped. It's a 15-minute exercise. And it's really an opportunity for you to talk about your business. These are not Mike Wallace type interview questions. They're very softball things. And it's really an opportunity for me simply to ask you, well, what's your business all about? And I know we've got some alumni of the program in attendance here. I think we've received really good reviews from it, and I think the business folks who have taken advantage of that have found it to be very beneficial. So if you're interested in those programs and taking advantage of the free TV advertising, if you can call it that we provide, get in touch with Maureen. She's kind of the center of this, but we're very happy to do it. We tape these once a month. We've got kind of a long list of folks who are involved now, but we'll get you on that list and really urge you to take advantage of that. The other thing that we've done recently is that the city has been, we've set up a subcommittee, and Belinda Kenley has been the head of this, and Joanne Rao and John Beals have been on it as well as staff. And we've really taken a hard look at a lot of the regulations, a lot of the rules and procedures that we have, really in an effort to streamline them, in an effort to make them clearer to understand, in an effort to really be more transparent, easier to work with. Because many of these regulations and rules, which are very good, I think they're sensible, and they lead to the high property values and so on in Centerville. We do have high standards, and we intend to keep those, but sometimes the rules get put in place and then they don't get looked at for many years. So I think it's a good exercise every now and then to take a fresh look at that, and that's what Belinda's committee has done. So there are going to be some changes, streamlining, if you will, some of the rules and procedures, and City Council is going to be digging into that in more detail later on this year. But one part of the exercise that has come out of that is the development of some brochures which are out there for your perusal if you would like. And these are things that are designed for folks who are involved with expanding businesses, doing those kinds of things, to really lay out in a very clear and concise format what the rules are, who you need to get in touch with in the city to get approval. We have a brochure on new business occupancy, which again, if you're involved in that, you should take a look at. We have one on accessory structures. And again, some of these apply to individuals and to businesses. We have a one on fences, which of course, I guess could apply to businesses as well. But sometimes we get into issues with that where homeowners and business owners have concerns about the fence rules and all that. So we wanted to make sure that those were clearly understood. And then we also have one which I think would apply to most of the folks here on temporary signs. And again, these are, take advantage of them. Please take them from out front if you're interested, because the goal again is to make it very clear what the rules are. The last thing in the world we ever want is to have a business start down a path, spend money, engage in activity, and then find out, oops, you can't do that. I mean, that doesn't do anybody any good. And we want to make sure that in advance we've got things laid out very precisely on that. So that's some of the general things that I wanted to mention, but then I just wanted to kind of get into some, I guess I call more official remarks, just letting you know how I feel, and I know how the council feels in terms of how grateful we are for all that you do. I really am honored to officiate at this event. This is actually the 12th time as mayor I've had the opportunity to welcome businesses in the community. And the reason I like it so much is that it gives me a chance to tell you how grateful I am that you've chosen to locate or to grow your business in this city. I mean, I think it's a great city, and I know all of us on City Council love it. I can tell you without any equivocation that all of us at the city are acutely aware that our success in providing services at a reasonable cost depends to a very large extent on your success. Now, it's been almost 90 years since President Calvin Coolidge said that the business of America is business. And President Coolidge also said that a person who builds a business is building a cathedral, and a person who works there is worshiping there. Sometimes politicians get a little bit out of control. But so President Coolidge may have gotten a tad bit overexcited there, but he actually was right on the fundamentals. I think the two most powerful forces in the world today, the forces that lead to individual freedom, are democracy and capitalism. Democracy gives an individual the right to choose those who make the laws. And capitalism gives an individual the right to fulfill his or her dreams without seeking the permission of the government or of anyone else. Gives them the right to choose the career and the training that they desire. Gives them the right to buy what they want, when they want it, and gives them the right to take an idea and to create a new product, which hopefully takes the world by storm. Now, it is our great good fortune to live in a country, the United States, which is the foremost practitioner of democracy and capitalism in the world today. But of course, we can't simply sit back and rejoice in our good luck or our good fortune. We need to keep working at it, to take what we've been given and to make it better and to improve it. Because that's what America does, and that's what Americans do. Your job as business people is to do what you need to do to be successful, to continually find ways to make or sell a better product or to provide a better service at a better cost. And our job in the city is to act as your partner, to keep your taxes as low as possible. And we've not raised income taxes in Centerville since 1983. Our job is to maintain the city road network and the infrastructure that you need. Our job is to provide police protection and other services at the highest possible level. Our job is to keep the rules and regulations as easy to understand and as unobtrusive as possible. And our job is to proactively help you to navigate zoning codes, building standards, and other city requirements. Now, it is the expectation of the entire City Council that the city staff will work closely with you to resolve any conflicts that might arise between business needs and the city standards. On your part, I would certainly encourage you to reach out to staff before you begin a major project, before you spend money, so that details can be worked out. Because we don't want you, again, to spend money on engineering and design work and all of that sort of thing until you've kind of cleared it to make sure that everything you're doing is consistent with the city rules. We don't want there to be unnecessary expenses imposed on you because of city requirements. Centerville is going to maintain the high standards that I think we're known by, but at the same time, we want to work with you proactively because our goal is nothing less that we be the easiest place to do business with in the entire Miami Valley. Now, ladies and gentlemen, again, I want to thank you so sincerely, both for who you are and for what you do. I'm proud of and grateful for what you bring to the city of Centerville, and everyone on council feels the same way. So welcome today. I'm now going to turn the podium over to our city manager, Greg Horn, who I think many of you know, and Greg's going to update you on many of the different items of interest that are going on in the city. Thank you.
Good morning. Nice to have a great turnout on a little chilly spring morning. I say spring because we always say spring has officially arrived in Centerville when we start mowing greens at Yankee Trace, and they started 2 days ago. So we may get another snow or two, but hopefully spring is here. Wanted to welcome all of you to Yankee Trace this morning. For those of you who don't realize it, Yankee Trace is 20 years old this year. It's hard to believe. It's our anniversary. We're going to be having a number of special events throughout the year, and you'll be hearing more about that, and we hope you all have an opportunity to partake in some of those. I'm going to put in a little bit of a shameless plug that I always try to put in. At Yankee Trace, we do offer discounts for our residents. We offer discounts for our businesses. Jason Pyrie, the gentleman standing back here in the door, Jason has been with us for a number of years. He has recently been appointed to take over as our food and beverage director. Steve Henshaw, that was our food and beverage director for the previous 20 years or so, retired. Jason now has taken over, and he'll be putting his stamp on things. And he's a great person to get to know. For any business meetings or any events that you have out here, Jason will work with you and help make all of your events a success. Steve Marino, Steve's still with us. Steve is our head golf professional in the back. Steve, as well, is a seasoned pro, been here for a number of years. Anything that you would like to do from a business standpoint, please see Steve. He'll make sure that all of your needs are met. Also, Steve tells me this morning, any of you that care to stop by the pro shop, he has 20% off on all merchandise this morning for you. So you can take advantage of that while you're here, a little business-friendly gesture on the part of the pro shop. Also, my last plug or two for Yankee Trace. We have a great Friday night fish fry. If you haven't been out here, you need to try it. And Sunday brunch, Easter buffets, Mother's Day buffets. They do a tremendous job here, so we hope you use the facilities. One of the changes, if you're a golfer and you're out and about on the course, you're going to notice that there have been a lot of trees removed here in the last year or two. Fortunately, when this course began in the early 90s, we planted over 4,000 trees. Unfortunately, about 1,000 of those trees are in the process of being removed because of the emerald ash disease. So again, you're going to see some changes. Certainly better that it's happened now than 20 years ago when the trees were smaller. So, but it is making some differences on a few of the holes. And quite frankly, it might be a little easier for you now on some of the holes with a few less trees. Speaking of emerald ash trees, if you have not been to Stubbs Park lately, you'll notice a much more severe difference there. Stubbs Park is the 65-acre park the city owns on Spring Valley, right next to the police facility. Stubbs Park is host for our summer concert series on Sunday evenings, a great venue. I encourage all of you to come out for those concerts. We have 1,600 ash trees at Stubbs Park, and over 1,000 of those have been removed in the last 12 to 18 months. We are replanting as many trees as possible. We're replanting different types of species. But again, it is making a very significant impact on that park, and I think you'll notice that when the concert seasons start. Speaking of concerts, Kristen Gottman, is Kristen still here? Kristen is in the back. Kristen's a member of our staff. Kristen oversees Benham's Grove. She also oversees our arts activities, helps coordinate the summer concert series. We do have a number of you that help sponsor many of our summer concerts. They are free, and that's something the city prides themselves in, and continuing to make that offering every Sunday evening. Some of those bands that we bring in are $5,000 and $6,000 per performance. And so if any of you are interested in being a sponsor or a partial sponsor for any of those events, please see Kristen Gottman now after this, or see her at City Hall. But again, we get about 15 to 20,000 residents, area residents out for those concerts. So it's a very active event. Speaking of Benham's Grove that Kristen also oversees, Benham's Grove, we have 20% discounts for any business that would like to have any kind of an activity at Benham's Grove. That is the 7-acre Victorian homestead that the city operates on North Main Street. Again, if you haven't been there, it's a great venue. It's always very active during the Americana Festival every year. A couple other things that I wanted to mention. Our police chief, Bruce Robertson. Chief? Is Chief here? Okay, Captain Casey, would you stand up, please? Captain Casey is our number 2 person at the Centerville Police Department. He's been with us for over 30 years, as has Chief Robertson. I would urge you, if there's anything we can do to assist your business, please contact Captain Casey or Chief Robertson. They'll put you in contact with the right person. We have a community relations officer. We reach out to work with the various businesses. If you need assistance with a property theft or employee training, or you need a security review done of your facility, we will help you with a number of those aspects in your business. So don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call our non-emergency number, which is 433-7661. So again, Centerville Police Department is nationally accredited. We're extremely proud of our police department. They're there to help you, and we would encourage you to reach out to them as a business owner. Thank you, Captain Casey. The other thing I wanted to mention regarding the police department today, and you may have read this in the paper, we pride ourselves in still having 24-hour dispatch. We have trained, highly professional dispatchers that are located at our facility on Spring Valley. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to answer your calls, to provide 911 assistance. We are in the process now of assuming those responsibilities for the city of West Carrollton as well. So we will be providing contract services for West Carrollton. That should be flawless to all of you. But again, it's an additional service we're taking on. The transition we think will take place May 1st. And one of the reasons we're doing that is to help spread some of our equipment costs out and some of our fixed operating costs out over a little stronger base, a little larger base, which will help assure that we'll be able to maintain this service well into the future, because we think it's vital to have that kind of a quality service located right here in Centerville. On city finances, a few comments on that, which are always important in terms of how things are looking at the city from an economic standpoint. As we've mentioned before, we've been hit very heavily with cutbacks from the state of Ohio over the last really 3 or 4 years. The estate tax has been eliminated. The local government fund has been cut in half. The tangible personal property tax has been phased out. House Bill 5, which was recently passed, which we were able to get support on from our local representatives, as the mayor mentioned, but unfortunately it did pass statewide, is going to be about another $800,000 hit to the city on an annual basis. So again, we have lost well over $3 million in annual revenue that is going to be a permanent loss going forward. That's about 20% of our general fund, just to give you an idea of the impact. As the mayor mentioned, we still have a 1.75% earnings tax. It has not been raised since, I believe, 1981. It is the lowest earnings tax in the south suburbs. All the other communities are at 2% or above. Centerville property tax, the portion of property tax that you as a business owner or property owner pay to the city of Centerville, is 2.35 mils. So that is, again, less than 3 cents of your property tax dollar comes to the city. Our property taxes right now, in terms of what the city receives, is a lower percentage than it was in 1978. We had a 20-year street improvement issue that was on the ballot. In 1998, it expired, and your city council did not renew that. So your property taxes in Centerville, what you pay the city, has actually been reduced over the years. And I can tell you that it's extremely challenging to continue to operate at these tax levels with the state cutbacks. The earnings tax, which is extremely important to us and becoming more and more important as these other revenues have been cut, now realizes 80% of the city's revenue. So what you do and your success is certainly related to the success of this community going forward. And as the mayor mentioned, the one thing that I would urge all of you, I know it's frustrating many times if you're taking on a new business, you're going to expand, you're going to maybe modernize, add a building addition, do some renovation. For some of you, it's the first time you've ever done that kind of project. It may be the last time you ever do it. And I can't stress enough, please pick up the phone, please call us. Let one of our employees come out and work with you, whether it's building inspection, whether it's planning, whether it's code services. We can save you money and time if you'll give us the opportunity to sit down with you ahead of time, work over the things that you're going to be faced with, because too many times a business goes ahead, hires an architect, hires an engineer, perhaps gets some legal assistance, starts to encumber costs, gets partially through the process, and then finds out that they've either got building code issues or zoning challenges, and it becomes very frustrating for you, and we're trying to help you avoid that. So again, please see us ahead of time. From an economic development standpoint citywide, we've had our struggles the last few years, as I'm sure all of you had, a very long recession that we certainly felt the impacts of. We are starting to come out of that as a community. We're coming out of it slowly, but we see some positive signs. We've had several smaller vacant structures that have been filled in the past few months. We're seeing more inquiries for building permits than what we've seen in several years. So again, we feel like things are starting to look up. We have several large projects that are on the horizon for the next year or so. We have a new Montessori school that will be locating on South Wilmington across from the Sugar Creek Kroger, one of the last infill parcels just north of Cheltenham. That facility will be from infants through, I believe, 6th or 8th grade. Again, it's a very significant structure, and that'll be under construction this year. We have the Randall Residence, which is an assisted living, independent living, and memory support facility that will be located at Sheehan and Social Row Roads. That construction, we're told, will take place this year as well. The main structure there is about 150,000 square feet, and then there should be about 80 senior independent cottages under construction very soon thereafter. Showcase Cinemas, you've seen some activity on that. That structure was vacant for a number of years behind the Cross Point Shopping Center. It's been acquired by the Mills Development Group. They're working with staff now on a project called The Allure, which is a creative kind of urbanistic style apartment project that they want to build there, approximately 250 units, swimming facilities, recreation facilities, a complete standalone residential complex. The old Planet Ford on East Alex Bell, Nathan Cahall. Nathan is to my left, is our economic development administrator. Nathan's been working with a couple of good prospects on that facility, so we're hoping something takes place there. We also still have a couple of major obstacles or challenges in the community, and that's the former Kroger facility on South Main and the former Steinmart facility. Steinmart's used occasionally for some special merchandising and some retail wares, but not on a permanent basis. So we still have those two large retail stores that we certainly need to help get filled. The cornerstone of Centerville, which the mayor mentioned, you've heard a lot about that in the paper, some positive, some controversial. Extremely large project, 225 acres, 150 acres north of I-675, 75 acres south. Eventually, that will be about a $150 million build-out. Costco is committed. Cabela and Kroger have committed. Chick-fil-A, Bagger Dan's, a couple of credit unions, I believe, and some other smaller facilities. So it's well underway. With that, again, brings a lot of challenges. One of those major challenges is road construction and trying to keep up with the roadways in the community. And I wanted to take just a few minutes this morning because you are all impacted, no doubt, by road construction. So I've got about 5 minutes worth of road announcements that I want to go through and let you know what is happening right now, what's going to be happening over the next few months in your locale. Feedwire Road, tough project, challenging project. I wished it was over. It's not. We think it's going to take another 8 to 10 weeks of good weather to finish that up. That's from Wilmington Pike to I-675. That's a little over a $2 million project with Ohio Public Works assistance. The crews are back on that job this week. Obviously, we need the asphalt plants to get reactivated, but you should see that again getting finished up in the next few weeks. Another project on Wilmington Pike that we just started last fall, and that is from Cracker Barrel North to the new Dilly Drive entrance to Costco. They got the underground work done, the storm sewer, started some of the excavation. They're going to be back into that area, I think, probably starting this week or next week. So again, you're going to have some delays. There's going to be one of the northbound lanes closed off and on for the next probably 4 months. We hope that project gets done around July, but that's the Wilmington Pike widening Phase 1 from Cracker Barrel North to Dilly Drive. Again, another significant project. North Village Drive access, that's a project the city is assisting the library on. For those of you who are patrons of the Woodburn Library on North Main Street across from Dorothy Lane Supermarket, you know it's always been tough to get out of there and to make a left-hand turn onto Main Street. We are assisting the library with a small financial contribution of $50,000. The township is assisting with a like contribution. Our staff, Doug Spittler, our city engineer, public works director, has been helping to oversee that for Kim Paris and the library board. And that structure is in now. They'll have an access out to North Village Drive behind the Chinese restaurant. Doug, when are we looking at wrapping that one up, do you think? 2 months. So hopefully in 2 months, you'll have a safe way for the patrons of Woodburn to go out to North Village Drive, go west to the traffic signal on 48 and make your left-hand turn without worried about being involved in an accident. Another project that's been a little lingering last year, we had a hard time matching the stone, was the Centerville Gateway Enhancement Project right next to Bob Ross, the additional limestone monumentation and the iron fence work. That was a federal enhancement grant to match up with what we did several years ago across the I-675 overpass on Main. That project was funded 80% federal, and Bob Ross Motors picked up the 20% local, and the city assisted with the planning and the oversight of that project. So that should be wrapped up here shortly. I-675 Wilmington Pike improvements. I already mentioned to you the northern improvements that are ongoing on Wilmington Pike from Cracker Barrel north. If that doesn't create enough obstacles for you, we're going to create more obstacles for you on the southern portions of Wilmington Pike. So the Wilmington Pike I-675 interchange, we are attempting to widen that roadway underneath the overpass to essentially squeeze in a couple of more lanes. Eventually, 10 years, 15 years from now, that overpass will have to be widened out. But we're trying to maximize the usage right now under Wilmington Pike under that. So you're going to see that construction starting, I believe, in as early as June. It's a project that is funded partially by Centerville, partially through a federal grant. There'll be additional lane added for stacking. So if you're turning west to go to the Dayton Mall, or you're turning east to go to the Green, we will now have parallel stacking lanes. So we'll have double the stacking capacity to get folks onto the interstate there quicker, more efficiently. We're also going to be completing the additional lane south to Miami Valley Hospital south. So there'll be an additional southbound lane there that'll be completed. That project will be wrapped up this year. But again, you're talking about construction there, June, July, August, September type time period, when we also have construction going on up Wilmington Pike from Cracker Barrel north. So it's going to be a little tough for a while. Black Oak South improvements, that's a residential area that some of you may live in, and we're finishing up the last phase there of a complete redevelopment of the street network in Black Oak, and that's a project that'll be underway this summer, and that's about a $400,000 local project. Yankee Street improvements, we're working with County Engineer Paul Gruner and his staff, and they're actually coordinating that project. Yankee Street is about a $3.5 million project. $2 million of that is federal grant. About $600,000 to $700,000 is Centerville, and the county has close to $500,000 involved in that. That project will be out to bid in January, and will be starting in 16, and will probably run to early 17. And that will be starting at the intersection to our south here at Social and Austin and Yankee, running up past the clubhouse, widening, improving the culvert, et cetera, including the center turn lanes, and going on up to the first residential entrance into Yankee Trace. Our side of that project will be completed, curb, gutter, et cetera. The other side eventually will have the potential to be widened even further. So it will be a 3-lane facility now, eventually a 5-lane facility down the road. North Main Street, this is where it's going to get a little trickier than some of the others that I just mentioned to you. If you traveled down North Main and Franklin Street recently, you realize the pavement is starting to degrade, and it's not quite to the standards that we normally like to keep our downtown area. We've prolonged the resurfacing of Franklin and Main Street a little bit to try to fit it in the schedules and coordinate it with some water line replacements that are upcoming by the county and some gas line replacements that are underway by Vectren. So you're going to see a lot of construction activity in the next 12 to 18 months on Franklin Street, with new gas lines being installed, and you're going to see water lines being installed east of Main Street along Franklin Street, and you're going to see a major water line project going up North Main Street. And you know what that traffic is like, so you can imagine with water line construction up Main Street. To give you a few of these dates, on the North Main Street water line project, that's a $2.6 million project. That project will start in late 2015 this year. We're planning on having that project resurfaced along coordinating with ODOT in 2016. And essentially that's going to go from Franklin Street north to Alex Bell. So again, big project. It's going to create a lot of construction activity. And for those of you who have businesses in that area, we will keep your businesses open, but it is going to be an inconvenience. East Franklin Street, same situation. We've got a major water line reconstruction project east of 48. So in the South Johanna Lake Glen area, that project will be underway in 2016. Water lines, and then we'll be following up with repaving of those entire streets. Few more. Lakeview, Cherry, Martha. I know Lisa's here from Bill's Donuts. So Lisa, if it's not bad enough, we're not going to be working in front of you at Bill's. We're going to be working behind you as well. We've got an older area in that plat that is, the stone is very close to the surface. A lot of those water lines were cast iron. They were put in very close to the stone layers. If you drive some of those plats, you'll see patchwork after patchwork with all the water line replacements that take place and the leaks. The county has pledged to come in and start upgrading the system. So again, we're looking at Lakeview, right up by Stingley and Tower Heights. So we'll create a lot of challenges for school bus operators and people dropping their kids off, as well as Cherry and Martha. Major projects beginning in 2015, and it will take probably the next 18 months. New water lines, new services into homes, new hookups for hydrants, repaving of all those streets. The last one that I have, we'll go back to Wilmington Pike. We're going to give you a little breather. This one doesn't start on Wilmington Pike till 2018. We're replacing all the traffic signals on Wilmington Pike, pedestrian walk lights, tying in fiber optic capability so that we can better control all that system. It's about a $2 million project in conjunction with Greene County. It starts at Alex Bell. It will redo the entire Wilmington Pike corridor with, again, new signal lights, et cetera, and that will be under construction in 2018. That one will create less havoc for traffic. Long term, will create a lot of improvements for traffic. Those are a few of the projects we have ongoing. So again, it will be challenging the next year or two. I guess the good news is there are a lot of communities, quite frankly, that would like to have our problems. At least we have the money. We've been able to acquire the grants. We've been able to come up with the local matches to reinvest in our infrastructure and to make it stronger for the long term. But there definitely will be some challenges and some inconvenience in the short term. At this point, I'll turn it back over to the mayor, and I know he'll open it up for questions. Thank you for your attention.
Sounds like with all those road repairs, we're going to have to get around by helicopter in the next couple of years. But I did want to mention before we open it up to questions, there are two young folks in the audience that I wanted to give special recognition to. These are a young man and a young woman who are working at Miami Valley Hospital South in the Project Search program. I had the opportunity to go talk to the group working on this a few months ago, and I was very impressed. And we have with us today John Heck and Shakana Belson. If you could both stand up, please, and be recognized. Thanks. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, let's open it up for questions. If I don't know the answer, I'm going to bring Mr. Horn back up here. He'll probably be up in the very first question. But any questions anyone has on any subject? This is like a college class. Everybody just wants to get the heck out of here. I get it. Are there any questions from anyone? Yes, ma'am.
If there's going to be a Kroger's going in at the Cornerstone, is that what I heard?
Yes.
Is there going to be a Kroger's that's closing?
Well, we don't think so. I mean, I know that Kroger has just pumped a lot of, or said they're going to put a lot of extra money into, which one, Greg? The Sugar Creek Kroger. I think there's a Kroger in Kettering, I guess it would be too, which is fairly close. But we're certainly not aware that they would be closing that, but obviously they haven't told us one way or another. Any other questions? Yes?
I've heard that there will be new restaurants.
There will be,
A new restaurant?
oh, at Cornerstone? Well, actually, there'll be quite a few. I know that there's going to be I'm trying to think who else publicly announced yet. There would be what do we got, Greg? We've got a
Chick-fil-A has Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
I think they've already come in with their building plans. A restaurant called Bagger Dan's, which is kind of a casual, I'll call it an upscale fast food, but it's more of a sit-down. No, I think you'll see probably, I'm going to guess at least 6 or 8 new restaurants in that area, at least.
Any other questions? Yes.
There's behind, here on West Franklin, you didn't mention West Franklin, there's a new gas line, new water line, something, what?
new gas lines, Van, on West Franklin and also on East Franklin. It's going to start down across from Magzig, and they're going to be putting in new services from Magzig, not quite to the high school, but close. That's the older part of town. We got a lot of older gas lines. So Vectren, most of those businesses right now are serviced from the front. The gas lines run down along Franklin Street. Very old, very expensive to maintain, very difficult to maintain with the type of traffic they have. So they're going to be putting in the new gas lines to the rear of the properties, like your property and the properties up by the town hall parking lot. And running all new service lines into the rear of those businesses, both north and south of West Franklin, and then abandoning the lines that are out in West Franklin Street. So that activity is going to be ongoing over the next several months.
Yes.
What about an access road behind the shop there, like here, and it goes out onto Main or on Franklin for all the traffic? You never get a left turn out there. Is there anything going on with that?
Where are we on that? I think the answer is no.
That is our long-term plan, and quite frankly, it's not in the 5-year plan. Partially because of funding and partially because we don't have all the right-of-way to get to that point. The city does own a lot just to the west of Las Piramidas. Eventually, we would like to see a connector come out at that traffic signal, but again, it's not in the next 5-year plan.
Kathy, that is a good question, though, because I know we've thought about that. And as you know, we've talked about that for a long time. But as Greg said, part of it's funding. I mean, the city, before the state cuts got in, you know, we obviously had a lot more flexibility simply because we had more cash. But, you know, since then, we've had to do a much tougher job of prioritizing things. And there's a lot of projects like that we think would be a good idea. But again, when you balance what has to be done, they just keep getting pushed off into the later years. It's just the reality we have to live with. Good. Yes, sir.
Can you tell us what's going on at the Thomas Farm next to the high school?
Do you want to? Well, go ahead.
It was just the Thomas Farm just came in for a replat. It's about 65 acres. Premier Health Network purchased that from Dr. Thomas and his family several years ago. I know there's been interest expressed by the school. We've always hoped that the school would end up owning that parcel. It hasn't taken place yet, but we're hopeful that it will. The replat that was just filed is for the front property, which is similar to the offices to the west, about that depth, about 5 or 6 acres, to be segmented off. And so I think you'll see the hospital network retain ownership of that front piece. Included in that is an easement or future right-of-way for access, which would be right across from West Park Drive, so that eventually there would be a roadway that would go back through that property on through the rest of the Thomas Farm, and then there's another access point that's part of this replat that has been designated to come out on Clio. So again, long-term, we hope that the school ends up with the ownership of maybe 55 of the 65 acres. It gives them opportunity to grow and develop in the future, stay in the community, and then we have to work with them and or Premier Health Network to make sure that we have proper transportation configured, because we really need a second way out to Clio with the growth of that campus. So it looks like it's getting closer to happening.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
An off-the-wall question. If they pass a flat tax, what happens to the city income tax?
Well, I mean, I don't know the answer to that. Obviously, depends what the final.
What would your plans be? I mean, should we be for a flat tax, or does the city get screwed? Or?
Well, as I understand a flat tax, and again, it obviously depends what the final shape of the legislation would be. It's simply it would take the place of the income tax. It would be X percent of your income. I would think in that case that we'd have to see how that coordinated with local income taxes. I mean, if they still allowed those to go forward, then obviously we could continue as it is. What happens sometimes, though, especially in today's environment, is that if the state were to pass something, it might put restrictions on what the city or what the local governments could do, and we would obviously have to juggle and figure out, what that would be. There's been a lot of talk of the flat tax in years. Whether it's going to get traction this time or not is hard to tell. The only good part about that is that typically that doesn't happen overnight. You know, there's months of debates and hearings in Columbus, and we'd have at least some chance to prepare for what we would do. But it's impossible really to answer in a hypothetical because it just depends what the specifics of the tax would be. But, you know, we have to keep an eye on what goes on in Columbus, and that's why I made the comments about Jim Butler and Peggy Lehner earlier. There's a lot of things that go on there that, you know, and again, everyone's operating in good faith, but it's easy to get to Columbus and talk about, you know, big government's bad and all this sort of thing. But sometimes what happens is that what they do in Columbus has a real big impact on those of us at the local level. And a lot of communities, now we've not had to do this yet, but I can't promise we'll never have to do this. A lot of local communities have had to go to the citizens and ask for higher taxes because the estate tax has been cut. There's been a lot of changes that have really impacted the local government revenues. And for us to provide the same services, the police and the road and all of that, you know, it obviously costs a lot of money. And it's easy for someone in Columbus to say they're a hero because they, quote, reduce taxes. But the effect of a lot of that is it just pushes it down to a lower level and forces those of us in the city or in townships or in villages to have to raise taxes. So it's kind of a dangerous political environment, to be honest, for local government these days. I would not be overly optimistic if there was a flat tax passed. I wouldn't be optimistic that it would still give the local communities the flexibility we would need. But again, we would just have to keep an eye on it and try to influence it as much as we could. Any other questions? All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you so much for coming out. Appreciate all you do, and go on out there and make some money.